Hello, BookTube, and welcome to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, book by book, author by author, and period by period. Sometimes, most of the time, it will be random, but lately we have had a vein of Russian literature, minor and major. And the last two times that we've convened here for our March of the Penguins, we've talked about Leo Tolstoy's book Anna Karenina in two different translations, and mentioned a few times in the course of this Russian spree that we're on that Tolstoy is responsible not only for Anna Karenina, which many critics, especially in the 20th century, called the greatest novel ever written, but also for another toweringly great Russian novel. And we've mentioned that a few times, and then we had Anna Karenina twice on 2 consecutive days, so that means it's fairly obvious what today's Penguin will be. And yes, that's right, Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel, The House of the Dead. This is a novel of that was inevitable. In 1850, he went to prison. He went to a penal camp, exile in Siberia. And as we've mentioned, when it comes to Dostoevsky in the past, this is a person who couldn't stop writing. It's fortunate. He had a very hard life by anybody's measure, and could have turned away from writing. Hard lives sometimes do that, but instead he transmuted all of those miseries, all of those sorrows into work. And this was about as sorrowful gets. He told his brother that he viewed his years in this Siberian prison camp as death, that he was dead. And here he writes an account of that is every bit what you'd expect. It is a Puccini opera of prison writing, that small, unenviable subgenre of writing that is prison fiction or prison nonfiction. Though there's a raft of books on both sides of the fiction-nonfiction divide, all about what prison is like, what it does to the people in it, how societies and alliances are formed, the little glimmers of hope. There's an amazing scene. There are a couple of amazing scenes in The House of the Dead that are about little glimmers of hope that are always fruitless, they're always treacherous. And it makes for absorbing reading. It wouldn't in most people's hands, but it does in Dostoevsky's hands. His narrator and all the characters that he meets, they come alive. They really do. I know that's a trite thing to say, but Tolstoy or Dostoevsky did with his prison term the best possible thing that he could have done. He immortalized it in literature, so that even though it was a misery for him, we get to enjoy the book. And this particular, the Penguin Classic, is translated by David Macduff. Again, he was their go-to translator for a lot of Russian stuff, it seems. And the translation was done in 1985. Yes, 1985. There have been more recent translations, including one by Peviar and Volkonsky that I wrote about. So if I remember, I will clean up that review and leave a link to it down below. The cleaning up has to happen because I ported an enormous amount of material over from Open Letters Monthly, the old online literary journal where I did a yeoman's amount of writing. People ported over a whole mass of writing from Open Letters Monthly to stdonoghue.com, which is sort of an omnium gatherum for all of my writing, or at least that's what I want it to be. It's just a huge amount of work. There's a huge amount of writing there. And when that port happened, all of the prose breaks broke, all of the fonts broke, all of the picture links broke, everything broke. So every single time that I want to show you something that I have written that is in that mass port, because Open Letters Monthly isn't there anymore, I have to go in and fix it from head to toe, and that is time consuming. I will do it. I feel certain that I've written about Dostoevsky a few times, so I should probably do that. Since he's come up on this Daily Penguin many times, I should probably do that. Go and find all of those stuff. Even finding the stuff in that great mass is difficult to do, and oh my God, the amount of it. The amount of it really brings home the fact that I am a fast writer, that I am a prolific writer. That really brings it home. Because if you go into that great mass of material and type in just a random word, I think one day, looking for something, I typed in the word blood, into the search function of stdonoghue.com, and I got like 500 responses, all pieces that were there in a mess, and none of which I had reformatted. And that's just one word, let alone a date or proper name. So, but I think I wrote about the Pevian Volkonsky translation of The House of the Dead. So if I remember, I will leave a link to it down below. Of course, it's a recommend. There's nothing that Dostoevsky wrote that is not a recommend. It's mighty depressing, but the way this author thinks on the page keeps the pages turning, even when the stuff that he writes is bleak beyond any measure of bleakness, just bleak beyond any measure. Cockroach in the soup type bleak. So if you are, for instance, a fan of prison literature, as I admit, I kind of am. I kind of am a fan of prison literature, not just for its literary value, but also for its sociological value, because America incarcerates more of its citizens than any other country in the world, and does so for sometimes mind-bogglingly trivial reasons, things that are misdeeds, mistakes, not crimes. And of course, the prison system in America is a watchword for horror in the 20th century in the West. So, you read a book like this, and it's not true in Dostoevsky's case. He richly deserved being imprisoned. He actually deserved the execution that he only narrowly escaped. But you look at other cases where you just happen to be on the losing side, and then you look at the mountain of great literature that's come out of prisons, and it makes you think. So that is your Penguin for today. It was inevitable. After Anna Karenina, it was inevitable that we would do The House of the Dead. It's a lesser tier Dostoevsky, but I do recommend it, even in the McDuff translation. Which isn't, I shouldn't say even in. I keep raining on this guy's parade. He is good and solid. I think he is a bad match with Dostoevsky. That's all. And even with that bad match, he is still... it's a good, solid job. It's enough to convey to you what the fuss is about. So that's your Penguin for today, The House of the Dead. So we will move on tomorrow, I have no doubt, but we will still be talking about Russian literature. So who knows what it could be. I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.